Hey guys, this is Caribbean Wrestlers You Should Know, sponsored by Premier Pro Wrestling. I'm Randy Ritchie. Today we're going to talk about Jose Gonzalez, Invader One from Puerto Rico. Invader One, the same guy that has been accused and acquitted of stabbing Frank Goodish, Bruiser Brody, to death. 1988, I was training to become a pro wrestler. I was trained wrong, but I still put my heart into it. And I used to go downtown to Lawrence, and I can't remember what, but that part of Chicago was considered uptown, which used to be a really nice place. And you can even see buildings down there to this day that say this building was built by Alphonse Capone. It's a shitty neighborhood. It's right across the street from the Aragon Brawl Room, and there used to be a parking garage down there. And in the parking garage, when I was training in 1988, there was a poster there for one of the last wrestling shows at the Chicago Amphitheater. The main event was Bruiser Brody versus Nord the Barbarian. You know, I knew about Bruiser Brody since I was a kid, since watching WWA. But let's go ahead and fast forward 30 some odd years to when I shared an office with Jose in Puerto Rico. Okay? When I was down there in Puerto Rico, the trust issues were very, very prominent. It was very hard for me to gain the trust of Miguel Perez and also Savio Vega, and they made me pay my dues, you know, and I get it. I don't mind. I was on their island. I was inside their house, okay? So I went from working in a corner workstation with a door behind it where every time somebody went through that door, I had to move, to all of a sudden one day, amigo, after lunch, we're going to put you into Victor's office, Victor Quinones' old office, the former owner of IWA Puerto Rico after he passed. So I went down and ate lunch, and I thought to myself, wow, that's something. And when I got back, I was sharing office with Invader One, with Jose Gonzalez, the man who did stab Bruiser Brody, did stab Frank Goodish. And I thought to myself, well, this will be a part of paying dues, you know, down here, and see how I handle the situation and handle myself. Well, the first thing I want to say is Jose just looks the part. He looks like a movie star. He dresses like a movie star. He's old school. He looks nice. He's tan. He's built. He's wearing a suit. He's wearing just the right amount of bling. The next day, we both get in at the same time. There's not much said. He's doing his stuff. I'm doing my stuff. He had just come in to help book with IWA Puerto Rico, and I was trying to help promote for IWA Puerto Rico. So I went to lunch that day, and I came back and says, Jose, I've just got to know what's your side of the story. And then he told me his side of the story. Now, the first thing I want to point out is Brody did not die from the stab wounds, okay? Technically, he bled to death. You hear everybody talking about this government-run medicine, you know, government-run hospitals, etc. Well, on the island, you can see what I'm talking about. They've been living this way for a long time. I believe it was my friend Dutch Mantell who told me, you know, as well, he collaborated, and so did my friends on the island that were gringos, and also my Puerto Rican friends on the island, and some people that were there at the time. So Brody gets stabbed. The traffic in Puerto Rico is awful, especially on the weekends. The first thing that happened is there was a tremendous delay in the EMTs getting there, okay? Horrible delay. Probably took 10 times as long as it should have taken in the United States. Then when they got to the hospital, Frank was coherent. Things were still going forever and ever. And finally, Dutch went up to the nurse, the station nurse, and said, my friend here is stabbed to death. And the lady didn't chortle, but she told him and reminded him, "You're in Puerto Rico. We've got a lot of stabbings tonight. We're doing our best." What Frank actually died of was he bled to death. Okay? I'm not exonerating, Jose. I'm not saying it was okay. You understand? But in the same token, I'm not running around with drama, half-truths, and loosely based on facts. You understand what I'm saying? Now, it also can be tracked, and I got Jose's accounting of it, where there was a history of Frank beating the shit out of Jose in the ring. There were times when Jose was a young man and he was trying to work for WWF. You can't YouTube it and find it, but what you can find is on some of the house shows, Invader One and Invader Two, as young men, a tag team, that were doing some phenomenal, innovative things. They were sent over here to learn how to work and then go back to their island. And let's go back to that now. The internet fan likes to think that one way, shape, or form, Jose wasn't good enough to make it outside of the island. I can assure you, Jose in the ring is a compelling storyteller. He is to this day a huge legend in Puerto Rico, and he's still involved again with IWA Puerto Rico. I saw a match less than a year ago, and Jose must have been in his 70s, and he was still telling a great story out there in the ring. Now, there is so much behind what had happened, okay? A lot of bullying. Frank beat him up one time to the point where Jose almost died. He had to leave the territory because he had to have so much time off to recover from the beating and go home. This happened on more than one occasion, I've heard, and I can't remember if it was Jose or if it was one of the other legends, or maybe it was both. But there's record of over 20 beatings from Brody to Jose. When Brody got shot, he was working for World Wrestling Council. He was working for Victor Jovica and Carlos Colon. They made him the booker. And I think in part why they made him the booker was because they were behind in paying Frank Goodish the 5% of the territory that he was promised. Knowing all this heat and the background, they said, "Okay, amigo, as the booker, it's your job to tell Frank we're going to fuck him again." Frank is already hot. Frank already doesn't like Invader, and the rest is history. The bottom line to it is this. Nobody saw the stabbing. They saw the after effects. So the only people who know what happened are Frank Goodish, Bruiser Brody, and Jose Gonzalez, Invader One. But I've told you Jose's part of the story. He certainly doesn't seem like a killer to me. I tried to put that stuff aside and see him for what he is and what he offers the wrestling industry. Now, that being said, man, how many people can span that many decades and be an amazing draw on the island to the point where people will still come to see him? Not the tens of thousands that used to, but if you check the current wrestling climate in Puerto Rico, the name Invader One means something. That being said, again, Caribbean Wrestlers You Should Know, sponsored by Premier Pro Wrestling. Please note there's no commercials here, so don't be an idiot. Please like and subscribe, and I'm going to also in the description with the links where you can support Premier Pro Wrestling. I'm going to go ahead and put Invader One, Jose Gonzalez's Wikipedia. Thanks, guys.